episode of our Understanding PSLE Math series, we will be looking at the top 10 strategies that are very commonly tested in the exams. We have analyzed the past year PSLE papers from 2018 to 2020, as well as school exam papers from 2019 to 2020 to sift out the latest examination trends. The purpose of this video is not to encourage you to spot questions or to skip the revision of certain topics or strategies, and we are also not trying to tell you that all these questions here will appear in the PSLE this year, but rather we just want you to know what are the most commonly tested strategies in the recent 2 or 3 years so that you can prepare yourself better for the exam, and you can check if you are able to solve such questions should any one of them appear in the exam this year. If you are not so sure how to solve some of these questions here, don't worry, don't panic. There is still time. You can go and revise our previous worksheets and practice on the questions inside again. But if you have any questions after practicing, or you're still not so sure about some portions of it, please feel free to check with me through our question portal, and then I'll be glad to assist you on that. Okay, without further ado, let's take a look at what are the top 10 most frequently tested strategies in the exam. On the top of the list, we have fraction of a ratio. Now this question here, this is an example of a question of the strategy fraction of a ratio, and this question appeared in the PSLE in 2020. Now let's take a look at this question. On Friday, the ratio of the number of adults to boys to girls visiting a zoo was 7 to 6 to 5. So let's write out the ratio for adults to boys to girls. 7 is to 6 is to 5. On Saturday, the number of adults visiting the zoo remained the same. However, the boys increased by 50% and the number of girls decreased by 40%. So we should know that we have to change our 50% to become a fraction, and we get half. And for the girls, we have to change the 40% to be a fraction, which is 2/5. Now, they said that the boys increased by half. So let's take a look at the number of units for the boys at first. It's 6 units at first, since we know that the boys increased by half. So we need to go and find out what is half of 6 units. So we got to multiply it, and we get 3 units. So that will mean that the boys increased by 3 units. Let's make sure any information that you have found, do write it down for your ratio. You update it, so it's very easy for you to make use of the information later on. So you can do the same thing for the girls. 2/5 of the girls decreased by 2/5, so you can use your 2/5 to multiply by the number of units for the girls at first, which is 5 units, and you get 2 units. Okay, so the girls decreased by 2, so you can subtract by 2. And from here, you will be able to get the ending ratio for adults to boys to girls, which is going to help you to solve the part A and part B really easily. So this is how you solve for such questions for fraction of a ratio. The second strategy, we have our Beaker. And this is an example of a Beaker question from the PSLE paper in 2018. Anne had a total of 285 red and blue beads. She used 45 red beads and 40% of the blue beads. After that, the ratio of the red beads to blue beads Anne had was 1:3. So as you can see here, the red beads changed and the blue beads also changed, but we only have one ratio, which is the ratio in the end. So since we only have one ratio, so that's why you have to use your Beaker. So you should know how to solve your Beaker. So if you're still not sure, please do go and refer to your strategy to recap on it. And now for the third on our list, we have Connect Me. This is an example of a question from Catholic High prelim paper in 2020. Let's take a look at this question. A rectangle is made up of 4 triangles, A, B, C, and D. The area of A to the area of the rectangle is 1:5. So let's write out the ratio. A is to rectangle 1:5, while the area of D to the area of the rectangle, it's 1:7. So as you can see here, we have the rectangle that is in common, so we can connect the rectangle, and so that's why you can solve this question using your Connect Me. And then after that, of course, you have to use another strategy, which I will leave you to go and figure it out. If you are not sure what is the strategy to solve for this question, you can check with me. And now for the fourth strategy on our list, we have what remains the same, which includes the total remains the same, difference remains the same, and one side remains the same. Now, these three strategies have been very commonly tested, not just for the past 3 years, but for the past 5 years actually. So you need to know how to identify for each strategy, how to tell that this is a total remains the same question, difference remains the same, or the one side remains the same question. So if you are still not very sure, please go and refer to our notes. We have everything inside. Okay, so now let's take a look at an example of this question here from the PSLE paper in 2019. At first, the ratio of the number of boys to the number of girls in the chess club was 4:1. After 6 boys and girls joined the club, the ratio became 3:1. So as you can see here, we have the key sentence, after 6 boys and 6 girls joined the club. So there is a copycat action between the boys and the girls. So do you know what strategy this is? Yes, it's your difference remains the same. So you're going to use your difference remains the same concept to solve for this. You draw the table, and I'm sure you will be able to find out the difference, and then you can compare them, and then you can solve for this question. And now for the fifth strategy on our list, we have the magical red line, which is a strategy that is not so easy to identify. So let's take a look at this example of the magical red line question from the PSLE paper in 2019. The figure is formed by 5 identical semicircles. What is the diameter of each semicircle? Now, if we put our focus on the top 3 semicircles, 1, 2, 3 here, we are able to form a statement for the length from this point to this point here. So we can let the diameter of one semicircle be represented by A. So to find the length from this starting position here to the ending position here, we can get A plus 12 plus A plus 12 plus A. And if we put our focus on the bottom 2 semicircles here, we can get 22 plus A because it's the same semicircle, they are all identical. And then plus 16 plus A plus 22. And since we know that the left-hand side and the right-hand side are actually talking about the same length, so we can equate them. And then you can solve this question using your magical red line. So in the exam, if you come across questions like this and you manage to form statements yourself, you will be able to identify that you can eventually solve the question using your magical red line concept. And now for the sixth strategy, we have let's kill. And an example of the let's kill question appeared in the Tao-Nan prelim paper in 2020. For this question here, you can write out the information that you are given from the question, which is about the 5 out of 11 and the 1 out of 2. After writing out the ratios, you will be able to label the information in your diagram. And from the diagram, you will be able to form 2 statements. And from there, you will be able to apply your let's kill strategy and solve for this question. If you want to know the full solution to solve for this question, you can check out our episode 10, Understanding PSLE Math series. Now for the seventh strategy, we have sets ratio. This is another strategy that is not just very commonly tested in P6 but also in P5. I have an example of a question on sets ratio in the PSI paper in 2020. Let's take a look at it. Andy saved a total of $108 in coins in his coin box. 2/3 of the coins saved were $1 coins. There were 3 times as many $1 coins as 50-cent coins. The remaining coins were 20-cent coins. How many coins did Andy save in his coin box altogether? So you're supposed to represent the information for your 2/3 in ratio. So you can indicate that for $1, you have 2 units, and for your 50 cents and 20 cents, it's 1 unit, because we know that 3 units is the total number of coins. And then since you know that another ratio for $1 to 50-cent coins is 3:1, so from here, of course, you could go and connect your $1. So as I say, you can see that connect me is very commonly tested in the P6 papers. And then so after you have done your connect me, you can actually apply your sets ratio concept to solve for this question. Now for our 8th strategy, we have connect group. And this is an example of a connect group question in the Nanyang Prelim paper in 2020. Now there were 3 types of fruit in a box. The ratio of the number of mangoes to the total number of apples and oranges was 2:5. So you can indicate mangoes to apples plus oranges is 2:5. And then the ratio for apples to oranges is 9:1. So as you can see, there's an apple plus oranges here, so we can connect it together with this group over here. And so you can apply your connect group concept to solve. As I have mentioned previously for the question from Tao Nan, it is also solved using your connect group concept. So connect group is really a very, very basic kind of strategy that you must know for your exam. So please make sure, if you are still not sure how to identify or how to solve it, go check out our worksheets again and practice on the questions inside. Now for the second last strategy, we have a pattern question that uses the strategy of counting by gaps. So this is an example of a question that appeared in the Catholic High Prelim paper in 2020. I have taught you a total of 3 strategies for pattern observation questions. So as you know, there will always be at least 1 pattern question in every paper. So please make sure you know how to use all 3 of the strategies, the counting by gaps, the perfect squares, and the consecutive numbers strategy. So if you're still not sure, you have forgotten 1 or 2 of them, please go and revise so that you know how to solve for such questions instead by listing out all the way. And now for our very last strategy, we have split the leg. And here's an example of the split the leg question that appeared in the PSLE paper in 2020. If you want to know the full work solution of this question, you can check out episode 4 of our Understanding PSLE Math series. And after watching this video, I hope that you will take the opportunity to go and revise on all the strategies here that you're still not so sure with, as well as all the other strategies that I've taught you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to text me through WhatsApp or through the question portal, and I will be very glad to assist you. So stay positive, and you can do it.